Jinger Duggar breaks family tradition in shocking way. Longtime fans of the Duggar family know that tradition means everything. Many of Jim Bob and Michelle Duggar's children have gone on to boast large families of their own and continue the teachings of their parents. Jinger Duggar Vullo already broke family tradition by moving to Los Angeles. As she and her husband Jeremy raise their daughters, they're also determined to do things their own way. Jinger Duggar Vullo doesn't homeschool her kids. Since faith remains a core part of Duggar family values, many of the children homeschool their own little ones. But Jeremy and Jinger Vullo opted for a different approach. This picture from Jinger's stories tells me that they do send their oldest to private school. A Redditor shared on the Duggars Reddit page, attaching a screenshot from Jinger's Instagram. "Our favorite time of day," Jinger captioned the post, featuring her young daughters. "Waiting for it, Jeremy_Vullo to get home." Evangeline appears to lean forward to pick something up off the ground, while Felicity perches on the stone fence, looking off in the distance. While Evangeline wears typical play clothes, Felicity sports a dress that strongly resembles a school uniform. Some Redditors felt surprised that Jinger and Jeremy Vullo would break with the family's strict views on homeschooling. However, a few pointed out that this wasn't exactly a secret. According to some Reddit users, the Vullos have previously confirmed they do send their children to a private Christian school instead of homeschooling. Comments included, "They talked about it in there too, and a podcast. They do attend a private Christian school. And thank goodness for her sake. I don't love religion-based schools, as an atheist who thinks all religion is a cult. But at least she's being taught by people who presumably had a better education than Jinger. Which wasn't her fault, but she is not qualified to teach her children much of anything. She's posted content of her in a school uniform before, so we knew that she was sending her to a private school. Their church has schools, K-12, which might be a compensation as part of his employment." Redditors think the Vullos could do more to protect their children's privacy. Jim Bob and Michelle Duggar thrust their children into the spotlight while they were still incredibly young. Many of the Duggar children went on to do the same, but Jeremy and Jinger Vullo have also broken from tradition here. While their daughters often show up in Instagram posts, Jeremy and Jinger don't share their faces online. However, a few Redditors also noted that it wasn't very responsible for the couple to share a photo of Felicity in her school uniform. "I just proved to myself that it's pretty easy to find out which school they send the oldest to via a quick Google search," one Redditor added. "I would never advertise where my children go to school if I had even the slightest bit of fame." "Actually, I still don't, with my 0 bit of fame," another chimed in. Jinger Duggar had always been known as one of the more independent-minded members of the Duggar family. Growing up in a home governed by strict rules, conservative values, and an unyielding focus on family unity, it seemed like she would always be bound by the unspoken tradition of the Duggar way of life. But as the years went by, and as Jinger began to find her own path in life, it became clear that the life she would choose for herself would not look exactly like the one her parents had envisioned for her. And recently, Jinger shocked the world when she broke one of the most cherished family traditions in a move that left both her supporters and critics stunned. The Duggar family had long been known for their deeply rooted Christian values and old-fashioned lifestyle. Their home in the small town of Tontatown, Arkansas, was a haven for conservative ideals, where modesty and faith were paramount. The Duggar parents, Jim Bob and Michelle, raised their 19 children with strict rules governing everything from dating to dress codes to how they interacted with the outside world. For the Duggar girls, the expectation was clear. They would stay at home until they were married, and once married, their role would be to support their husband, raise children, and continue to adhere to the principles of the family's belief system. Jinger, however, had always been a bit of a rebel in her own quiet way. While she embraced many of her family's beliefs, she had a natural curiosity and a desire for more than the traditional life laid out before her. From a young age, she showed an interest in music, culture, and new ideas, always asking questions and seeking knowledge that stretched beyond the narrow confines of her upbringing. As she got older, her desire for independence grew stronger, and though she never outright rebelled against her parents, it was clear that she was different from her siblings in terms of her outlook on life. Her marriage to Jeremy Vullo in 2016 marked a new chapter for Jinger. Jeremy, a former professional soccer player turned pastor, shared her desire for a life outside of the strict boundaries of the Duggar tradition. Together, they moved to Laredo, Texas, far away from the familiarity of their large family in Arkansas. This was the first sign that Jinger was willing to step out of her comfort zone and explore a different life, one that allowed for more personal freedom and a wider perspective on the world. However, it wasn't until a few months ago that Jinger truly broke from family tradition in a way that no one saw coming. Her decision was so shocking, not because it was out of character for her, but because it challenged one of the most sacred traditions within the Duggar family. The idea that family loyalty and unity should always come first, above all else. Jinger's shocking break came when she publicly announced that she had decided to leave the conservative, strict church that had been the backbone of the Duggar family's faith for generations. The church, which had been founded by Jim Bob Duggar and had played a central role in the family's religious life, was known for its rigid interpretation of the Bible and its unwavering commitment to traditional gender roles. For the Duggars, the church was not just a place of worship. It was a family institution that shaped their worldview and provided them with a sense of belonging and identity. Jinger's decision to leave the church was met with a mixture of surprise, anger, and disappointment from some family members, especially her father. Jim Bob, who had always taken great pride in his family's religious unity, struggled to understand why Jinger would choose to step away from a tradition that had been passed down through the generations. For him, faith was not just about personal belief. It was about family, community, and adhering to a strict set of rules. Jinger's decision felt like a betrayal to some, a break from the core values that had defined the Duggar family for decades. But for Jinger, the move was about reclaiming her own faith and finding a church that better aligned with her evolving beliefs. She had spent years grappling with the teachings of her childhood church, and as she grew older, she realized that the dogmatic approach to religion no longer resonated with her. She began to explore different denominations, learning about various interpretations of Scripture, and seeking a community that embraced a more progressive, open-minded approach to faith. The decision was not easy for Jinger. It meant distancing herself from the very community that had shaped her entire life, and it meant facing the potential alienation of her family. But it was a decision that she felt she had to make for her own spiritual growth. In her public announcement, she explained that she still loved her family deeply and valued the lessons they had taught her, but that she had to follow her own path in order to truly connect with God in a way that felt authentic to her. Jinger's break from the Duggar family tradition was also reflected in her changing views on women's roles within the church and society. In the past, the Duggar girls were raised with the belief that their purpose was to serve their husbands and raise children, with little room for personal ambition or career pursuits. But Jinger, with her newfound freedom, began to embrace a more egalitarian view, one in which women could pursue their passions and interests, have careers, and contribute to the world in meaningful ways, all while maintaining their faith. This shift in perspective was most evident when Jinger began speaking out publicly about her belief in gender equality and the importance of women having a voice within the church. She shared her own experiences of grappling with these ideas, recounting how she had once felt confined by the expectations placed on her as a woman in a patriarchal religious structure. But now she felt liberated, empowered to embrace a broader view of faith and life, one that allowed for personal growth and self-expression. Of course, Jinger's decision to break from family tradition was not without its consequences. Her relationship with some members of her family became strained, particularly with her fat.